We made it up to chapter 17, and I had made an outline for this chapter, and we've got just a little tiny bit of it left before we go into a new outline for the next chapter. Okay. 1 Samuel 17, verse 48 is where we're going to start at. Last week, we studied about David and Goliath, and we're going to finish David and Goliath this week. We didn't finish it. We talked about how David, when he went into battle, he said the battle is the Lord's.
Amen.
And then the next section is what I call David gets ahead, right? You know? So, in verse... Somebody got it, right?
Me and Sister Christian gets ahead, get it?
Yeah, David gets ahead, right?
Yeah.
Verse 48 says, "And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead. That the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone." I'm going to stop there. We'll continue that in just a second. Now, they were on the tops of two mountains yelling at each other, and in the valley below. That's where the battle was going to take place. So this 14-foot giant come running toward David, and David put a stone in his sling and slung it, and it hit the giant right in the middle of the forehead. Now, one thing I was telling you last week was that the stones that they use, a lot of people think David had a little bag with little stones, but that's not the case. The stones that they used, they've actually excavated in the Middle East. They found stones that were 4 inches in diameter and weighed over 2 pounds. So we're talking about a large stone that he slung. This was a weapon of war that he had. He had killed wild animals with it before. Now, he hastened to meet the giant, and he smote him. That word "smote" is in Hebrew is "naka," and it means to severely wound. Now, it was probably the only vulnerable place on this man's body. It was right here, because he had a helmet, he had armor, and he also had a shield bearer in front of him. So anybody that's ever shot like a black powder weapon, was the old kind, if you have wind, you have to kind of point it away from what you're shooting at, because you're not going to hit it. Same thing with that sling. He slung it over that one man right in between the eyes of the giant. Now, something I've told some of y'all before, I like giant monster movies. I don't know if y'all like them. I like Godzilla and all that kind of stuff. And I remember Jason and the Argonauts. Anybody ever see that one? Jason and the Argonauts? There was a giant in that movie called Talos, the Man of Bronze. And this was a gigantic bronze statue that was trying to kill these soldiers. And he had a weakness. It was on his heel. And they had to unscrew his heel, and then all the fluids inside the giant fell out of him, and he crumbled to the ground. And I was thinking about how David, the only place he could have knocked that giant down was between the eyes. And God directed his weapons of war, right?
Amen.
He prevailed. That word prevailed is hazak. He strengthened and he was fortified. Now let's go to verse 50. It says, "So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David." Now some people think that when he cut the head off that he slew him. But that's not the case. It says here he slew him. The word slew is mut in Hebrew, and that word means to die or to kill. Okay? So David killed him with the stone. But David had already promised that he was going to cut his head off.
That's right.
But David didn't have a sword.
What did
David
he
didn't
do?
carry a sword. Okay? So therefore David ran, this is verse 51, and stood upon the Philistine, and took the sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut it off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. All right.
Can we just talk about the irony in that?
Yes, we can, please.
I mean, it's like, here this giant is talking a bunch of junk, right? And of all the things he gets his head cut off with, it's his own sword.
His own sword. Yep.
I mean, think about the book of Esther and Haman. You know, here he is talking against God's people again. And what does he do? He's trying to kill one of God's people, or children. And what has happened? With his own weapon, he gets killed. Him and his family.
You have to be careful when you come against God's anointed.
Amen.
You know,
Yes.
That's right.
we were talking about that at work. You know, if people treat you bad, they better watch out.
That's right.
Because you are God's anointed.
Amen.
And God doesn't like it when people treat you bad.
That's
Yeah,
right.
God doesn't like it. And He will. God will do something about it if you have the faith to believe that He will.
Amen.
That's what David had. He had faith. I mean, everybody was saying he couldn't do it. You know, you're a little boy. You're a naka. That's what they call him. That's a little adolescent boy. And he says, I come in the name of God who rules the host of heaven.
That's right.
You know?
Hallelujah.
Glory to God.
What do you think happened to that little officer?
Oh, yeah.
He's
I
probably
want.
still running, huh?
I bet he is. I bet he's really running. Yeah. Well, it says there that as soon as they seen that this little boy had cut off their champion's head, they ran.
Yeah.
They realized there's something about this little boy, this red-headed boy. He's got something.
He's got something.
This guy's got something, you know. And it's so sad about Saul. I mean, we've been studying Saul, and I've tried to like the guy. It gets worse and worse and worse, you know, because I'm up to about chapter 19 in my studies, and so I'm ahead of this. So I always am. I have to be. But Saul just doesn't like David. He's so jealous of him, you know, and it's so silly, so stupid.
I know, because if they would have joined forces on the same page with the Lord, how much better.
Yeah. It's just like I'm a supervisor at work, and I've noticed when I go out of town, my guys don't get along. I find out when I come back. You know? But when I'm there, they get along, you know? And I know what it is, and I know that the Lord directs how we lead people. You
Amen.
know? And the atmosphere, you want to keep a good atmosphere. You don't want to have negativity in
Right.
the midst of negativity.
Exactly.
Well, that's the way it is, right? I know you work at a place just like mine.
Yep.
And it can wear on you. Okay. So he took off his head, and then they all ran, right? Okay, that gets us to verse 52. And the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until they came to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Sheraim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. I'm going to stop there. Interesting reading. It's funny. It's funny when how the attitude of the Israelites changed so quickly. They were all hiding. They were scared. And all of a sudden, they're chasing after the enemy. You know, sometimes it takes one brave person to start the Spirit of God moving. You know, just one person. Now that they chased him to a place called Ekron, and Ekron means eradication, and the root word means to pluck up. And then they chased him even farther to a place called She'eraim, and She'eraim means double gates, and even unto Gath. Gath means wine press. And the reason I like to look these words up, they actually mean things that, when they say Gath, that means the place of the wine press. There's a wine press there. And you don't get that reading the King James.
No.
I mean, I like the King James, but you have to look the words up to understand what they are. I do. They chased them, and these people were so scared they ran and left the tents behind, and the Israelites went in there and took all their stuff. Now it says that David brought the head to Saul, but he put his armor in his tent. What armor was that?
Probably slingshot, yeah.
I think it's sword.
Do you know that he took Goliath's armor?
That's what I was thinking. It was Goliath's armor.
It's a spoil of war. You take the armor. It's worth money. It's made out of metal. Back then, metal was a precious thing.
Well, I'm
You
just
know?
thinking how he could tote all that. That was heavy.
Oh, yeah. But I bet by the time, he's carrying the head, I bet somebody else helped him with the other stuff.
Right.
He
He
had
had a
help.
lot of friends now. All of a sudden he's really popular.
Can you imagine carrying that head around?
Well, I have that written down here. We're gonna go into it a little more in a second here. Right here. Yeah, I have it there. Let me finish reading this here.
He probably kind of use that armor as like what we call a museum.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one commentary I read said that he dedicated Goliath's sword in the sacred temple. The word tent, using the word tent there being tabernacle rather than a tent, like somebody living in a tent. Maybe he brought the armor to the tabernacle. Very possible. That's just one commentary I read. So I'm not to back that up.
Right?
Now, verse 55 says, And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistines, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son this stripling is. And David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine. Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said unto him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered and said, I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite. Okay, let's stop there. Okay, so Saul goes to his captain, and captain's name Abner, which means father of light. Now, one question I have: Why did Saul not recognize David and who he was? Because wasn't David a minister of music to him when to make the evil spirits go away?
Yeah.
How come he didn't know him?
He didn't care.
Okay, now I don't think so. Okay, you know that David was with the sheep.
Right?
He left the sheep in care of someone, right?
Right?
He journeyed across the desert with food and provisions
Right?
to the battlefield. And how long were they yelling and screaming at each other? It was about a month this went on before they even fought. So, no running water, no baths, no shaving your face. And he's redheaded. I'll bet you he could grow a beard too. You know what I'm saying? So he probably didn't look like the little guy with the harp and the, playing music, He looked like a little ruddy, smelly shepherd boy, So, but Saul wanted to know who he was and who his family was. Now, he called him a stripling. The Hebrew word is elem. It means a young boy. Now, when David returned, he was brought before Saul with Goliath's head. Now, carrying around a severed head for several days,
It's gross.
it's really bad.
I mean, for him it was a trophy thing.
Oh yeah, these people were I think they're primitive. I mean,
Obviously.
obviously, that because we still in the Middle East we see people cutting people's heads off.
Yeah, they're still doing it
That's
today.
it's a common way of execution over there. Now we kill people here too. I believe in the death penalty. I do.
I do too.
I don't think we should let people go around killing people and let them get away with it. I don't think we should. But cutting their heads off, that's a little severe, and bloody.
And the eyes and the tongue.
Yeah, just carrying around that head, I just can remember flies flying around.
Oh, maggots. Oh, it's stinky.
It must have been horrible. It really must have been.
I'm sorry, just a little more graphic.
Oh, I know. It makes these Sunday school lessons better, though, if you can picture it in your head about what really went on. Because, when I was a kid, I was in Sunday school, and I seen a little David boy that was about this big with a little sling and hits the giant balls over. They don't say a whole lot about carrying around a dead head with you, in your Sunday school classes when you're a little kid. I don't think you should. They might scare you to daylights out of you. But, now who did David say he was? They said, who are you? Saul asked him. Who did he say he was in verse 58?
Thy servant.
He says-
Thy son's servant.
I am the son of a servant, your servant, Jesse, who is a Bethlehemite. And course, Bethlehemite means house of bread. Okay, that's the end.